Okay, so before we start Reader's Workshop today, I want to remind you of the expectations of how you should be seated. So, make a checklist in your mind if you're following these expectations. Crisscross. Let's see. Good, good, good. Oh, I got some good ones over here. Yep, unless you have a skirt on. Thank you. Your reading materials are on the carpet in front of you. Nothing in your hands. Nothing in your hands. Let's see. Nothing in our hands. Nothing in our hands. Good. Good. Your voice level should be like, who can raise their hand and tell me, how should your voice level be? Damari. Level 0. Who can raise their hand and tell me where you should be facing? The speaker. Should we be talking to our neighbors? We should not be talking to our neighbors. We should be focused and listening and following expectations. Okay, Ashton? Okay. Today we are going to start talking a little bit about reading strategies. Reading strategies are things that you can use to help you figure things out while you're reading. So you're not going to have an adult there every time you are reading. So we're going to be reading around the room by ourselves, and the teacher will come around every now and then, but she's not going to be reading with you the whole time. So you need to learn the strategies to help you figure things out while you are reading, Ashton. So today we're going to use the strategy called meaning clues. That's another word for context clues. Raise your hand if you've ever heard context clues. You might not know what it means, but you've heard of it before. Good. Some people have heard of it before. So, today we're going to be talking about context clues, and we're going to be figuring out how to use those by ourselves without the teacher there. So, let's look at an example together of when you might see this when you're reading, Antoine. So, here's a book about the mysterious noise. So, I'm going to pretend like I am reading this book at my seat right now, all by myself. Not with mom or dad, not with the teacher. The house was dark and everyone was sleeping. There was a strange shadow outside the windows. All of a sudden there was a loud crashing sound. Let's pretend like we said horse. We said the horse was dark and everyone was sleeping. And as I was reading, sometimes you'll read really fast and sometimes you won't be paying attention to what you're reading. And you'll just say horse and keep reading, and it doesn't even make sense. So when you're reading, you have to be making sure that you catch any time you say something that doesn't make sense. Because if I said the horse was dark and everyone was sleeping, I could look at the picture. The picture, is that a picture of a horse?
Oh, no.
That's a picture of a what?
House.
A house. So I might say, maybe that word is house. Does it make sense to say the horse was dark while everyone was sleeping?
No, doesn't make
No.
sense.
So the word could be house. I solved that on my own. I didn't have to raise my hand. I didn't have to ask the teacher. I looked at the picture that helped me. Or I can read it and use the words around it to say, does that make sense? So I can use the words or the picture. So I'm going to model, Ashton, if I was reading this book during my IDR time, and I came across something that I didn't know, what could I do? I'm going to use context clues to do that. So you're listening as I model. You're watching what I'm doing. Because in a second, you're going to go with your book and do what I'm doing right now. So this book is Stella Nova. Those of you who are in my writing group, we used this book for strong leads the other day in our writing. I'm going to read just parts of the book. I'm not going to read the whole book because we have things that we got to be doing. So we're going to read just a couple of pages out of the book. So let's look at the first page. First, I want to read this one for you. Okay. All alone, Stella Luna flew and flew until her wings ached, and she dropped into a tree. I promised not to hang by my feet, Stella Nova sighed. So she hung by her thumbs and soon fell asleep. She didn't hear the soft sound of wings coming near. So I'm going to pretend like when I was reading, I didn't know this A word. I didn't know that word. And I came to it and I said, all along, Stella Nova flew and flew until her wings, I don't know, and she dropped into a tree. So two things that I can use to help me. The picture or the other words around it. That's called using your context clues. So let's look at the picture and see if I can figure out what's happening. All along, Stella Nova flew and flew until her wings something and she dropped into a tree. So look at the picture, and if I look at her face really close, she kind of looks tired. It's like her wings probably got tired in this picture. She's just said, ugh, she flew and she flew with her wings, and her wings ached. I might not know what ached means, but looking at the picture and reading the sentence, I might be able to tell that ached might mean her wings maybe hurt, or maybe her wings were tired, because looking at the picture I knew. So I didn't raise my hand and ask the teacher, what does this word mean? I looked at the picture and I read the sentence again and again until I said, oh, I think I know what that word means. I think it might mean her wings are tired, or her wings are hurting her. So that is using context clues. One of the things that I want to tell you, I would write that down on my piece of paper. So now I'm going to model for you what you're going to write down on your piece of paper. So if that was what I just read, I want Miss Powell to know that I used context clues when I was reading today, Miss Powell. So I'm going to write it on my paper so that Miss Powell can read it and know that I used my context clues. And here's how I will write it on my paper. You're going to do this in just a second, so you need to be listening. I wrote my name at the top. I wrote reading task and today's date. Those three things will be on Mason's paper, will be on Takira's paper, will be on Layla's paper, will be on Michael's paper. All of those three things, except for your name's not going to be Miss Powell. Your name's going to be whatever your name is. So, I will write this right here. Miss Powell, I say, my response, you need to use context clues when you are reading today. Things like the picture or what? What besides the picture could you use? The picture or the other words around it. So those two things will help you today. Write two examples how you used either the picture or the other words around it today. And we just did that together. So I'm going to write, I wasn't sure what ached meant. Because I just read, I said I wasn't sure what ached meant. And what two things did I use to help me figure out what ached meant? I used the, AJ? The words around it or the picture. I wasn't sure what ached meant. So, I looked at the what? Picture. At the picture and the other words. And what do I think ached means? Based on the picture, based on the sentence, all along, Stella Nova flew and flew until her wings ached and she dropped into a tree. What do we think ached probably means? Georgia?
So like
when they went down. She couldn't fly anymore because her arms were so
lazy
and tired, right? So I think ached means tired. I think ached probably means tired. Now, Miss Powell knows that when I was reading, I saw the word ached. I didn't know what it meant, and I looked at the picture and the other words around it and decided that ached probably meant tired. Did I look it up in the dictionary?
No.
Did I raise my hand as the teacher?
No.
I used the picture or the other words around it to help me. Let's do this one together, and I want you guys to help me see if you can figure out what you think. Okay. And trying to find the one with the correct one in it. Okay. So when I'm reading, if you come across a word that you're not sure what it means, raise your hand. If I come across a word that you're not sure what it means, raise your hand. We'll stop and we'll see if we can use our context clues to figure out what the word means. Are you ready? You're listening for words that you're not sure what they mean. When night came, Stella Nova flew away. Pipe, Flitter, and Flap leapt from the tree to follow her. I can't see a thing, yelped Pipe. Neither can I, hollered Flitter. Ah! Shrieked Flap. They're going to crash, gasped Stella. I must rescue them. Stella Nova swooped about, grabbing her friends in the air. She lifted them to a tree, and the birds grasped a branch. Stella Nova hung from the limbo above them. What was one word that you heard me say that you weren't sure what it meant? Yes, ma'am. What is it, limbo? Or limb? Stella Luna hung from the limb above them. Yes, ma'am. How about, does anybody know what shrieked means? Shrieked. So a couple people aren't sure. Let's just do that one together. It seems like you guys, if you already know what shrieked means, then you hang tight and you might be able to help us out later. So it says, ah! Shrieked. Flap. Shrieked, Flap. Flap is someone's name that's in the book. So if you were in this situation, let's use the picture first. If you were one of these bats, how would you be feeling if you were falling from the tree? Daria. Fun? You'd be fun if you're falling from a tree? Who else? What's another way? If you're falling from a tree, you don't know how to fly, how would you feel? You would feel scared. So what might you do? If you're, you might do what? Yell like a little girl. Yell or scream. How many of you might yell or scream if you're falling from something really tall? I probably would. And I didn't know how to fly or anything, and I was falling. So, my clues that I used, Georgia, I used the picture to figure out that, oh my gosh, shrieked might mean that they're yelling or screaming. Shrieked might mean that they're yelling or screaming. So I can use the picture or I can use the other words around it. So let me show you some examples of what you could write. When I was reading my book earlier, because I like to read, I came across a couple of other things that I used context clues for. And you can use this to help you when you're writing on your paper in a few minutes. I got to the word clampered. Ooh, who knows what clampered means? I don't know. So what two things could I use to figure out what clampered means? If I'm using my context clues, I can use the Malaysia, the picture, or the words. And the picture that I come across is actually, if you look at it, right here. It was on this page. It says, the birds clambered back into the nest. The birds clambered back into the nest. Clambered. I got the word clean.